Hello? Can you hear me now? I assume yes. Great, thanks. Oh no! None of that recorded? Okay, let me go back. Today we're going to share The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And here are the table of contents. We're not going to cover them in any particular order, but you can probably guess what it's going to be about. And just sit back, relax. I think today will be a lesson that will be useful for people to hear. And let's get started. The first one is seek to understand and then be understood. For your message to be received more openly, it is important to understand the other party first. So the book suggests to seek first to understand. That means to listen to the other person, being fully detached, or sorry, just forgetting about our own selves for a bit and then listening to the other person. So the goal of that is that the message will be better received because if you have something to convey, first, if you understand the other person, what they want, where they're coming from, what their where their mind is at, and you not only understand it yourself, but you also show it to them by repeating it back to them, maybe echoing the things they said in a different way, using different words, just to show that you've understood them fully. Then the other person will be like, wow, this person really was listening, and they will feel heard and they'll be more receptive to what you have to share. And the second part is equally as important. Seek first to understand, but then also to be understood. So you want to share your part also so that you're not left feeling unfulfilled. So here's an example. You're just going to tell me what you aren't. Oh, sorry, I misread it. You're just going to tell me what to do, aren't you? And then the guy responds, not this time. I just want to hear what's on your mind. And then the girl, then maybe I can finally say it all. And essentially, the girl just wants to be heard here. And the guy is offering a very kind gesture of listening to the girl. And again, leaving aside his own preoccupations and just focusing on what she has to share and seeking to understand, not to respond or uh, share what he has to share. And this is good not only because it's a kind thing to do, but also it's greater for influence. If you want your idea to be received uh, better, or have the other person be more receptive to your idea, then understanding them first and listening to them first will give you a higher likelihood of that happening. All right. Oof. I'm still a little nervous, but here's the next part. Um the this is something that you won't find in the book actually, because the I was sorry, I was thinking this is something you won't find in the book actually because uh this is a lesson that is about the golden goose and the golden egg. And this is actually a fable that the author shares. So, once upon a time, there was a man with a golden goose who produced him reliable golden eggs. He couldn't believe his eyes. And then he went to sell the eggs at first, and then he realized those are real. And so, day after day, he was selling the golden eggs. But eventually, he got a little impatient. He's like, this golden goose has so many golden eggs in it. What if I just extracted all the eggs from it? So, after waiting a few more days for the goose to be full of golden eggs, he decided to slay the goose and take out all the golden eggs. And he had many, 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 many golden eggs. However, he had no more golden goose to produce the eggs for him. So, what this lesson is usually about, they're referring to something called the producing capacity versus the production. What this means is just you have something that gives you the results that you want versus the results itself. And in life, to be effective, the book argues, is to balance both of it. So you want to not only get the results that you want, for example, the golden eggs, but also you want to have the systems in place to produce those golden eggs. A more concrete example could be anywhere from business to personal life. In business, for example, if you're saying you're in a sales meeting and you want to close a deal, but at the expense of the relationship, you might close the deal in a too salesy way, and you might get the sale today, but you won't get any repeat business. And in personal life, it's similar. If you, trying to think of an example. The goose would be your health and body. You want to take care of your health and body long term, so that you can have the good times and work hard and do all the fun activities that require a lot from your physical body. But if you always strain yourself, say you're always working out every day without any opportunity to recover, you're making the most out of the energy your body produces, which is equivalent to the golden eggs, but not enough taking care of your golden goose, which is your body. So that's the bonus lesson. There's a couple more coming up. I love this lesson. It's called Synergize. And in this graphic, from the left, you can see, well, before I explain the graphic, synergize, it just means that two things coming together will become greater than the sum of its individual parts. Because sometimes when you collaborate with people, you create something extraordinary that you would not have been able to accomplish, say, two people on their own. So, synergizing here, in this graphic, you have our magician boy, the prodigy, and the farm life girl, who is dreaming about a more adventurous life. And here, they're synergizing. They're like, we can do something together. I will trade you my magic powers. Or not trade you, I will show you how to wield magic. And then she's like, okay, I will share with you my unicorn. And then, thus began a great alliance. They shook hands, and they agreed to proceed forward with the charade. And thus, this is how the young man has received his unicorn pony, while the girl learned to wield magic. And they became the greatest team after that. They're both now wizards with amazing, infinite magical powers. It's greater than the sum of Harry Potter, Wizard of Oz, Dark Magician, and Alakazam and Fairy Tales magic combined together. It is extraordinary, fantastical, magical prowess that they will showcase together as a team. And this is only possible thanks to synergy. On their own, the boy would have been just a magician. And on her own, she would have been a farm life girl with a nice unicorn. But together, they're indestructible, and they are the greatest magical team ever. And that ties into the second part, actually, which is another lesson called win-win. Think win-win. Oftentimes we may want something, but what's in the best interest of the other person? If we're able to find a way to make it a win-win for all parties involved, then we're more likely to reach the outcomes that we would want. And this is also, I would also add that it's similar to synergy. However, the difference here is oftentimes there needs to be a compromise. Because when we want something, maybe it will cost resources or it will inconvenience another person. We need to, withdraw from the goodwill that we've built before and rely on our relationships for something to happen. But if we're able to think win-win, it becomes natural and it's effortless for things to happen. And this is a lot of how business happens. If two people come together and they offer mutual benefits, then with the win-win situation, like here, She traded her cookie for the apple the guy had that his mom gave her, but he didn't really want to eat. It was too healthy. Versus the girl, she loves to work out and she just thinks about having a healthy and fit body. And so she's glad to trade the apple for the delicious cookie because she can think about, wow, I'm going to look so good in the future. And look, she's already feeling more confident with her wink. Trying to seduce the guy already. Maybe. All right, bonus number 2. Circle of concern versus circle of influence. What does that mean? The book mentions that there are a lot of things within your circle of thoughts, and some of these things you can control, and others you cannot. And the important thing is to focus on the things that you do can control. For example, here in the graphic you have your boss, the weather, the world, the politics. These are all things that are a little out of reach for most people. If you have the power and influence to influence these things, you may have great responsibility and great on you if you have an ambition to say like become a politician and make massive moves to influence the world. But if that is not part of your ambition aspirations and you're not moving towards that, it's not something that you want in your life, and yeah, it's not something you can fully control, then the book suggests to not worry about it. It can still be your part of your concerns and your conversations, but the key is not to dwell in it. Instead, to focus on the things that you can do today, right now, the next few minutes. And that's part of your circle of influence, your inner circle of influence. What can you do today that you can control to make your life better, despite the things that are out of your control, such as exercising, eating healthy, reading books, learning? All these things could be good for you and that you can do to perhaps affect change in the future, the kind of change that you want. Next lesson, begin with the end in mind. Start everything with knowing how it's going to end, not in a way that you're predicting the future, you know, you're um, what's the word? You're the person with a crystal ball who can predict everything. No, but it's planning a little bit and doing uh, a more detailed analysis, like your due diligence, to predict a little bit what's going to happen in the future. And sometimes we're a bit limited by our knowledge. And that's not to say that uh, we we purposely didn't know certain things or that we're not smart or anything, but that there are certain things that just requires us to be exposed to so that we can learn about it. For example, about relationships. How do you know what's a good partner? How do you know that the partner you chose will be good for the long term? How do you know what are the traits of a good partner? What is considered healthy? What is normal? What is going to work long term? So begin with the end in mind. If your goal is, say, a healthy, loving marriage, then there must be certain things that you see in the other person that would fit those criteria. And it's good to know these things. Um, we'll definitely share more about this on another broadcast. What makes a healthy relationships and more, especially if you want to hear about it. Let me know. But for now, yeah, begin with the end in mind. And if you, on the contrary, let's look on the right, if you see some red flags, say this very, say visually appealing girl that really wants to have fun with you, but it's only for the short term, whereas you're looking more for a dream that looks like the left side, then you can already imagine what this kind of girl might bring you. And now we're talking in extremes. Obviously, people are not black and white like this, but it's just to explain the idea. If you foreshadow that this person might leave you in the future because of her personality trait and her values, then this is not aligned with your goal. And if you identify it up front and not let your feelings sway you, then you can make better judgments. Next up, emotional bank. I'm sure some of you would love the pig here, our little cute and cool pig. It's a reminder to stay cool. Or actually, it's a reminder of making sure that we're still cool with the other person, because we all have an emotional bank with other people in our relationships. Now, this is just a metaphor, but you can probably feel the truth of that in your own relationships. If you do something positive for the other person, it will leave a better impression on them, and you therefore build better relationship, a better goodwill that you can later bank on to withdraw, say like a favor or something. Now it's not all transactional like that, but the point is it's easier to be forgiven, or for things to work out in a more friendly way, and asking for favors and things like that. It's all easier when you've built a record of positivity with the other person. And in the book, they call that emotional bids, or deposits. So if you if you do something kind to the other person, and every time you do something like that, it adds to your emotional bank account with the other person. And every time you do something that you might regret, then that might take away from the bank, emotional bank with the other person. So, for example, here, say this is a beautiful, loving couple, and the girl is trying to explain this concept to the guy, and the girl is actually using the concept he learned from the previous chapters of making sure he understood before sharing his part, and he's rephrasing what the girl taught him in his own words. So, you mean every time I keep a promise or listen to you is like adding to our bank of trust? And when we fight or forget, it's like making a withdrawal? Exactly. If we keep making deposits, then even mistakes won't break us. Now, I apologize for my voice for the girl, but the point is, the girl is super emotionally intelligent. She understands that they need to build positive feelings together, depth together. And the more that happens, the more they can bank on together for to ride out and arrive at a more smoother destination, even if the sea is raging at times and they're going through storms and fights together. But they're going to come out okay because of all the positive things that they've built together. A big emotional bank, a rich emotional bank, a fat emotional bank. That's right. Now, I won't bore you with this one. This is actually called Put First Things First. There's a lot of things. He explains it in four categories. Essentially, what it means is really looking at what's important and what will move the needle forward and working on those things. And the key is, those things are not always the urgent things. In fact, many of these are actually important. And this is the quadrant he highlights. It's number 2. Not urgent, but important. It's not urgent to work out. You don't have to, but it might be important if you care about long term health. And it's not urgent to eat healthy, but it might be if you want to prevent diseases in the future. It's not urgent to do this or that task at work or in your business, but it might be to move the business forward. So these are the things that we ought not let slide, uh, slide aside, because if we're too caught up in the day to day and urgent tasks that may solve today's problem but won't solve the core issue, or it won't set up systems that will help us solve that issue in a more permanent way or in a more systematic way, then we're always going to be stuck in a urgent quadrant. And that's hard to do actually. It takes a lot of growth and changing the mindset to not feel the need to do the easy and urgent things, for example. So oftentimes in the world of business, the common advice would be to do the hardest things first. And there's even a book written on that called Eating the Frog. Now, this is quite picturesque because frogs are usually at least live ones, are not that appetizing to think about eating. And no, I say that because, as you'll know, in Chinese buffets in America, they actually sell frog meat. And it tastes not too bad. It's like chicken, but chewier, softer. And it's deep fried, so, anything deep fried can't be too bad. Taste wise, I mean. I don't recommend it, by the way. Not because of the meat, but because of the deep fried part. But yeah, quadrant number two is what to focus on most of times, to be more mindful about, to not let the important things slide because of the unimportant urgent. And last but not least, in the last chapter, they talk about sharpening the saw. Life is constantly changing, and we need to constantly adapt and improve. So, this is why we need to sharpen our saw. And this is metaphorical for anything that we need to improve in our life, or that we can improve and care about improving, and that is important to improve. For example, our well being, our mental health, our knowledge, our skills, all these things are things that are work in progress. If there's a goal we have, and by the way, this is great. There's even a supportive partner on the side. And doesn't this site look like Sword Art Online? This looks like Kirito, and this looks like a blonde Asuna. A little bit, the vibe at least. And he's sharpening his sword to go back into battle. It'll be similar. Um, by the way, this is AI generated. I think it's still beautiful. Um, but yeah, the the lesson here would be, if you go into fight with a dull blade, you will not get the results that you want. Instead, spending some time to sharpen your blade before going to battle, upgrading your equipment, making sure you have the right tools, the right mindset, and everything to go back into the battle, then you'll be much better equipped and much more effective, which is the key word today for our book topic. All right, let's conclude. As you see, we have this lovely graph here of the golden goose being chased by all these people who want the golden goose. And some people might be left behind just picking up the golden eggs. But that would be pretty smart too, but it would be even better if you can catch the goose and keep it alive. So, in conclusion, the 7 habits are: be proactive. Oh, actually, we did not really cover that one. But being proactive means taking responsibility. If you want something to happen, it has to be, you have to take responsibility for it, meaning it has to be up to you. Now, there is an extreme case of that where it might not be the best if like you're doing everything yourself. Sometimes it's good to ask for help, but the point is, if you want something to happen, don't wait on other people or other circumstances to happen, because it takes a lot of energy to bring what you want into reality and existence. The world is entropic and everything moves towards chaos, but the belief is you have the ability to influence the things around you and your life. And that's why this lesson is a lot of people's favorite, actually. So we won't belabor it, just taking responsibility. Number two, begin with the end in mind. Think about how this is going to end, and is that a future that you envision that is appealing to you, that you're willing to sacrifice for, work towards? Number three, put first things first. This is the one about the 4 quadrants. It means prioritizing things and doing the important things first. Number 4, think win win. Don't just think, how can I achieve my goal, but how can I achieve my goal while helping other people achieve their goals? In fact, by helping other people achieve their goals, I'm more likely to get the things that I want. Number 5, seek first to understand, then be understood. Always listen first. People say this a lot in the business world, that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. And so we should listen in proportion and even more. But yeah, the key is to listen and truly, uh, without any, at least, outcomes that we're trying to strive for, or gain in the meantime, and just really taking in what the other person is saying, trying to understand them, and then sharing your side of the perspective. Always applying principles that will foster a positive relationship with the other person, of course. Number 6, synergize. So we talked about this. It's similar to win-win, but it's how when you work together as a team, things can happen that normally would not be possible with only one person alone or people individually alone. It could be like one company merging with another company and they become better together. Number 7, sharpen the saw. Now, this is to also give credit to a famous and quite respectable man in history called Abraham Lincoln. So this is a picture of him. I think it's quite funny how he has a almost a bobblehead, quite a big head. He's sharpening his saw because he has this famous quote. And it's something along those lines that I hope I don't butcher, but if I had an axe to chop a tree, I would spend the first 4 hours sharpening it and the next hour cutting it, instead of spending the whole 5 hours trying to chop the tree with a dull axe. And the lesson here is that if you sharpen your tools, you make it more effective and efficient for you to do your task. And at the same time also is to constantly be improving. So these are the two things embedded in this chapter lesson. Well, I hope you've enjoyed. We've come to the end. And I'd like to thank you for your attention. And please don't forget to follow us. We would really appreciate it. Now, this is me on the inside, and usually on the outside, I'm a bit cooler and more reserved. But I always appreciate, the support and everything. Thank you so much. Appreciate you for watching. And I'm on Twitch, YouTube, and TikTok nowadays. So feel free to follow me if you want more of these. What do we call these? Like life advice? Tidbits? Is that a word? And yeah, if you've read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, let me know also. I'm curious, how popular is it in the Twitch and even VTuber community? I mean, 40 million people, 40 million copies sold. Must be someone buying these books, right? All right. I figure out why I didn't have sound. When I monitor myself, I actually cannot hear myself. I had to pay attention to that more. And now, I'd like to thank you, and we're ending our stream, and I wish you a wonderful evening. If you're catching this later, enjoy. I really hope you've enjoyed. Thank you. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye.